Hi everybody!
I've been critical of previous states of play. However, the last few have been much more in line with what I'm hoping for. Games that aren't just AAA slop.
Tell me when I'm telling lies!
Which is what we had for the majority of last year. However, now that PlayStation is no longer a rotten corpse helmed by a madman, these events are actually starting to appeal to actual gamers, and not normies who only enjoy shooters and shitty walking sims. For this video, we'll start with what I'm interested in, then quickly cover the things I'm doing additional videos on, before wrapping up with the crap I just don't care about. Surprisingly, there were a ton of things that actually caught my attention. Usually I go into state of plays with my expectations lower than Satan's junk. Since these events are typically reserved for third-party companies and in recent times, they haven't really focused on Japanese games, which are what I primarily enjoy. We actually got a fair few Japanese-developed titles announced here, so let's start with the thing that might have me the most excited, that being Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered. It's coming out this September, so we don't have long to wait. Part of why I'm so happy about this being announced is because it confirms more stuff from the Nvidia leaks from a few years back. Couple that with the fact I never had the opportunity to play Final Fantasy Tactics in the past, and yeah, I'm pretty happy, considering I actually enjoy tactical RPGs like Disgaea and other similar experiences. At this point, I'd say fans of tactical RPGs are eating good. I just hope my favorite TRPG of all time gets another chance at life, that being Valkyria Chronicles. But that isn't too likely. I'm low-key hoping Square Enix will give me a review copy of this game, because I know my community will be pestering me to get a review out ASAP. Anyways, enough rambling about tactics, let's discuss some other games that caught my attention. I'll cover this next part fast, since there isn't a lot to talk about. We're getting 5 new levels in Astro Bot. I'm very interested in those because Astro Bot is one of my all-time favorite games, and I feel like it's easily one of the best PS5 exclusives out there right now. There's also a new version of the Astro Bot DualSense, which is kind of neat. We're going to mention another controller later in the video though, so stick around for that. Next up, the latest entry in the Bloodstained franchise caught my attention. Then again, I did enjoy the previous games. From the trailer we got, I initially thought it was going to be a title in the same vein as Castlevania Lord of Shadows, which are still my favorite Castlevania games to date. Yeah, I know, that's a real hot take there. But it looks slick as hell, which you need in this style of game. And from the trailer, it would seem my major issue with Metroidvanias will be somewhat mitigated here. It's also going to be a prequel to the previous games, so again, something a bit different, and I like that. As of right now, there is no release date given for Bloodstained: The Scarlet Engagement. However, you can wishlist it currently. I imagine it'll probably release sometime in 2026. A lot of these games seem to be slated for a release next year. Next up is not really a game announcement, more a future state of play, which is coming next month. It'll be centered around Ghost of Yotai, which is a game I'm really excited for, as I loved Sucker Punch's Last Samurai Adventure. Ghost of Yotai is slated to come out this October, so a state of play to showcase it next month just makes a lot of sense. I get the feeling this title could be a Game of the Year contender for many, not me personally, but it's one I will play and enjoy when it drops. Next up, a 3D platformer caught my attention. It's called Hirogami, and it has an aesthetic that is very similar to that of a PlayStation exclusive called Tearaway. So from that standpoint alone, I'm a little bit interested. Also, I just love 3D platformers in general, as those were the backbones of my gaming experience as a kid. Hopefully it won't be as shitty an experience as the worst 3D platformer I've ever played called Paperman Adventure Delivered. But considering it actually looks good and like the developers are competent, I do have a bit of hope for this title, which launches this September. I think fans of 3D platformers are going to be eating well for the near future. Comment your favorite modern platformer of this style. We're moving from super artistic platformer to a slick as hell cinematic sci-fi experience next. I'm talking about Pragmata here, which is a brand new IP from Capcom. It really gives me BioShock vibes, but this is actually more interesting to me as it's from a third-person perspective. I actually really enjoy third-person shooters from time to time, as they don't give me the same issues a lot of first-person games tend to, which makes me experience vertigo. But I always enjoy sci-fi films, books, and games. For whatever reason, they're able to get at the core ideas of what makes humanity more than any other piece of media, which I think is going to end up being a core theme for this game. It's slated to come out next year, and Capcom even made a cheeky reference to the fact fans of the brand thought it wasn't ever going to be real. I always love seeing snark like that, as I'm snarky as hell. Well, this was clearly one of the biggest guns Sony brought to the table. It's not one of the announcements I'm most excited about. We're getting there. So if you've made it this far into the video, subscribe and ring that bell. I'm in fact a lot more interested for one of the lesser titles that got revealed here, that being Sea of Remnants, which is an action RPG. It really caught my attention thanks to the super charming aesthetics and the fact it seems to be taking elements from the Uncharted games, along with some combat ideas borrowed from Ratchet & Clank, which is always a good time, along with having some similar ideas to games from the Ys franchise, which is one of my all-time favorites. It's expected to come out next year, and it also gives me vibes of one of my all-time favorite animated films, Treasure Planet, which adapts Robert Louis Stevenson's classic Treasure Island into a sci-fi setting. The game was also pretty enjoyable for that film too. It'd be awesome if it got added to the PlayStation Classics lineup. However, that is very unlikely when you consider it's a licensed game. Let's keep going with the exciting stuff though. We just have 2 games left to discuss in this section, and these are the 2 I'm probably the most excited about from this state of play. One won't surprise my audience at all, because they know I'm into fighting games. The other will come as a shock, but we'll discuss the fighting game first. This one was the surprise of the showcase, because no one expected this to get announced. It's Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. For a lot of people, this puts into doubt what the future of Marvel vs. Capcom is going to be. I've got a video about that in the works though, so maybe sub if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on the matter. So what is Marvel Tokon? It's a 4 vs 4 tag fighter. I love fighting games, and while I enjoy tag fighters, I suck ass at them. So this game is going to see more casual play from me, as I do not intend to get good. I'll just stick around, have fun with it, and see where the game takes me. It's a collaboration between Marvel, PlayStation Studios, and Arc System Works. Admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of Arc's previous work. I adored BlazBlue Central Fiction and Cross Tag Battle, but I just couldn't get into Guilty Gear Strive, because it just felt a little bit too slow and stiff for my liking. The BlazBlue games, on the other hand, felt far more fluid and natural, which is what I'm hoping this Marvel fighter is going to play like. The game is slated to come to PS5 and PC next year, and it looks like it'll take the FGC by storm. We're going to have something else to discuss related to the fighting game community in the next 2 sections, so stick around for those. The last thing that really caught my attention was 007 First Light. This was a game I've long been interested in ever since IO Interactive first announced they were working on a James Bond game. I'm a huge fan of Bond in general, though it took me until I was an adult to appreciate the franchise. What we saw during the State of Play wasn't much in the way of actual gameplay footage, but that's okay. This gives us an idea of what the game is going to be like, and during the ending of the trailer, they said we're going to see more gameplay later this summer, so we really don't have long to wait. It's expected to come out next year, and goddamn, is it looking great so far. I also loved we were able to get a glimpse of Bond's watch with clear product placement from Omega. As a side tangent, because I'm a watch geek, Omega have been the Bond watches for a very long time now. The first time an Omega was used as a Bond watch was during GoldenEye. Before this, the film Bonds would mix between Rolex, Hamilton, Seiko, and a whole bunch of other brands. But to see a beautifully rendered Omega during the trailer, that got my watch geek side absolutely gooning. It's also based off the Omega Seamaster to some extent, but it doesn't match any Seamaster that is currently in the range. So that makes me wonder, are we going to get a First Light Omega? Well, it'd certainly be a niche product, it'd be one Bond fans would love to own. I know I certainly would. Next up, we're going to quickly run through the things I'll be making separate videos on. First up, we'll be discussing the brand new arcade stick PlayStation announced. This was a huge surprise to me, since Sony rarely, if ever, makes first-party accessories like this. So it makes me wonder if there might be more here than meets the eye. More of my thoughts will be in that video though. Next up was a new trailer for Digimon Storytime Stranger, which is a game I'm mega excited about. It got a release date, and I think Bandai might have just signed the game's death warrant. We'll just have to wait and see, but expect a rant video up in the next day or so. That's all I got for the teases, so let's talk about the stuff that just has no interest for me. Surprisingly, there's very little in the way of things that didn't interest me. Those would be Baby Steps, which I roasted quite heavily in a previous State of Play video. Karen also held no interest for me because I just don't enjoy survival games. Lumine's Arise also held no interest for me, and I'm not sure why, since I usually enjoy puzzle games. Maybe this one will grow on me. We'll just have to wait and see. I also have basically zero interest in the remastered collection for Mortal Kombat. This mainly comes down to my just not being a big fan of the franchise. I did enjoy MK10 when I played it, but other than that, I find the franchise just feels too stiff and rigid for my liking. Couple that with my not being a big fan of violence, and this one's a skip for me unless it goes on sale for a crazy low price of under $5 at some point. Speaking of violence, the ultra-violent game, Romeo is a Dead Man, also didn't hold any interest for me, so that one's definitely a skip. Other than that, there were a few other things announced that didn't neatly fit into any of the three categories I outlined. There are more titles I'll try out when I can, at some point, and decide from there. But what did you think of this State of Play? Now check out my previous State of Play video, and until next time, keep blazing that trail.